Welcome to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. And now here's your host, Wade T. Lightheart.
What is awesome health? It's actually an acronym that stands for air, water, exercise, sunshine, optimizers, mental beliefs and attitudes, and education. These are the pillars of peak health, and my team and I have created a free 12-week course that you can use to transform. Each day, you'll get a written and video lesson delivered to your inbox. Everything is covered from the foundations of digestion to advanced alternative therapies few people know about. And again, it's 100% free. Just go to bioptimizers.com. That's bioptimizers.com.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. It's Wade T. Lightheart for another Awesome Health podcast. And today we are going to talk about a really interesting nutrient called algae. I'm going to get into that in just a minute. And we are delighted to have Catharine Arnston, I hope I pronounced that right.
Yep.
to come on and share her experience with this. She's a fellow Canadian. Of course, we're both transplanted into the United States. And we're going to talk about how algae and immune support and fighting against viruses. Just give you a little background about Catharine. She's had a 30-year career as an international attache for the Canadian and British governments, published in an international magazine, founded 3 startups, not 1, not 2, but 3. And in 2009, she put her whole life on pause when her younger sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I've, of course, gone through that experience when my own sister got cancer, and it really, accelerated my career in the health and wellness industry. And she got her included her oncologist to change her diet to an alkaline one because it would help her hear. So long story short, she discovered algae, the most alkaline, nutrient-dense plant in the world, and nobody seemed to know about it. There's still a lot of people that don't know about it, for Pete's sakes. Catharine knew algae would be a game changer for the world, and she could help a lot of Americans understand it. And ENERGYBits, is that ENERGYBits or ENERGYBites?
ENERGYBits.
ENERGYBits, that's what I thought, was born. So, let's get into some. First off, Catharine, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's just fantastic. It's always fun. We were just talking earlier a little bit about, we were talking a little Canadianese for those who aren't familiar with that. And it's kind of a friendly, a nondescript, let's help the world and make the place a better way, which I think is really common in the Canadian culture. And you've been doing this for a long time. And yes. I love so just give me the whole background. Like, how did you end up in the algae business? Because a lot of people think, I see algae in my fish bowl and it's bad, or I see algae in the pond, it's bad. But there's some really amazing things about algae that people don't know about. Yeah. And you're going to kind of dispel some myths.
You got it.
Drop some ggolden nuggets of truth to help people live a more awesome health lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I was on Shark Tank a few years ago, and when I was on the show, Mark Cuban, he at one point he said, "We don't think you're in love with being an entrepreneur. You're just in love with algae." And I stopped for a minute and paused, and I said, "Well, if you knew about as much about algae as I did, you would be in love with it too. Algae is a nutritional rock star. It will save your life. It's going to save our world." And I'm going to, hopefully in 45 minutes or less, try to share almost 11, 12 years of my research on algae so that you will understand it and love it as much as I do. So yeah, you don't kind of wake up when you're 9 years old and say, I'm going to be an algae expert. It's either a policeman or fireman or doctor or lawyer or whatever. So as I said, I didn't look for algae. It basically came and found me. And it was as a result, as you mentioned, my younger sister had breast cancer. Her oncologist told her to eat an alkaline diet. They didn't tell her what it was. So she reached out to me, and of course I'm going to help her because it's my baby sister. And I'm also a very good researcher, so it seems. And so I said, I have no idea what this alkaline stuff is, but we'll figure it out. And it turned out to be a plant-based diet, primarily because of the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients that are in plants. Chlorophyll is a pigment that makes plants green. So she changed her diet. She went through chemo. She completely healed. I started learning about this plant-based nutrition stuff. After my 10th book, I thought, my God, this is powerful knowledge. Now, this was 11, 12 years ago. Nobody was talking about plant-based nutrition like they are now. Now it's pretty much mainstream. So I thought, somebody's got to tell the world about this. And I thought, well, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'll take a shot. So that's when I gave up my career. You have an MBA and all that jazz. I went back to school. I got a 1-year certificate in health coaching from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And then I put a curriculum together and I taught nutrition for a year at hospitals, corporations, anybody who would let me in. I would give them for free. And I learned then that everybody knows they should eat more greens, but they're heavy to carry from home from the grocery store. They're too much work to clean. They take too much work to cook. Their husband or their kids won't eat them. So I thought, well, how can I help people save themselves if I can't get them to eat greens? So I thought, okay, back to the drawing board. I've got to find something that's green, fast, easy, maybe doesn't even taste green. And I thought, well, talk about the impossible, but I thought I'd give it a shot again. And sure enough, one of the things I looked at was algae. Now, I had found algae from my sister a number of years earlier, but it was just one of many things I had recommended to her. So I thought, I'm going to take another circle back and take a look at this. Well, it was like Alice in Wonderland falling into the rabbit hole. OMG. First of all, algae is the most alkaline food in the world. Remember, this is what started the whole thing. And we can talk about pH of your blood and why it needs to be a certain level. And most food is acidic, which messes up your pH of your blood. It's the most nutrient-dense food in the world. NASA says 1 gram of algae has the nutrition of 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. 1 to 1,000. United Nations says it's the answer to world hunger because it has 3 times the amount of protein as anything else in the world. Animal protein is about 22% protein. Our algae is 64% protein. That's 3 times the amount of animal protein. Also, it's the most studied food in the world. There are 100,000 studies. We're going to talk about the 2 main algae. One is Spirulina, and the other one is Chlorella. There's about 60,000 on Spirulina and about 40,000 on Chlorella. These are in the libraries of universities, the NIH library, PubMed. These are locked down, peer-reviewed, clinical studies that prove all the things I'm going to tell you about algae. I personally have over 2,000 links to these studies. I don't have all of them because it takes a long time to accumulate them, but it is the most evidence-based food in the world, bar none. It's also been used for 200 years around the world, most notably in Asia for the last 50 years where, okay, pause, it's as big as the beef industry is here. This is a huge agricultural crop. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, algae is not a supplement. It is a vegetable. It grows in fresh water, but it just happens to be the most nutrient-dense, I call it a vegetable. It's sort of in the vegetable. It's called a sea vegetable, technically, because it's not quite a vegetable. It's better than a vegetable. That's a whole nother podcast. So it's not a supplement. Supplements are made in labs and manufacturing plants from extracts. Your body can't absorb most of them. This is like broccoli or kale. This is a vegetable, so your body recognizes all the 40 vitamins and minerals plus and absorbs them all. So it's the most bio-efficient food in the world, and it's not a supplement. So when I realized all these amazing things about algae, and that nobody knew about it in America, I decided 10 years ago I would dedicate the rest of my life to making algae understandable. And the reason why you don't know about it are about 3 or 4 things. First of all, wherever you live, let's say if you live in Western Canada, it's quite normal to see a truck going by with a big bunch of logs on them, right? Because they're on their way to the paper mill. So you're used to that. Maybe if you live in the East Coast, you see stuff from the ocean, seaweed and stuff. And I live in Boston, and we see Dunkin' Donuts trucks driving around. In Asia, it's quite normal for them to see truckloads of algae going to various places. It's just part of their life. In America, it's not grown here. 99% of the algae is grown in Asia. So it's in Japan, China, Taiwan, India. So why would you would never see it here in America? So most people think, if I don't know about it, it can't possibly be important, but it is important. And the unfortunate thing is that algae isn't new, it's just new to you. So you don't know about it because you haven't seen it. The other thing is it's a vegetable.
One quick sec. Whoa. We just got machine gunned with the 100th thing, and I'm still back with the throwdown that you had with Mark Cuban on Shark Tank, that the shark threw a shot at you and you smashed him back with all of this stuff, which was pretty exciting. I'm sure that experience was probably pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
And then second of all, and then second of all, I love the fact that you've kind of illustrated that a lot of people just haven't been exposed to, because of kind of what we would call a cultural bias.
Exactly.
Cultural bias. We're used to, lobster trucks going by, or we're used to log trucks going by, or we're using like a wheat silo if you're out on the West Coast, or whatever it happens to be, because all this stuff is relative to our part of the world. What do you think, and I want to get into the benefits in a sec, but since you brought this topic up, what do you think it's going to take for people to understand what the Asians have figured out around this? Because I know, for example, Asians are very big in fermented foods and bacteria cultures and enzymes, which is things that we've been very focused on in our company because of digestive health and wellness. And, no one was talking about that 15 to 20 years ago when we got started. And now here's another, nobody's talking about it. It's something that's remarkable. What do you think it's going to take to bring about this awareness? And this podcast is part of the reason we have that, but what do you think is the barriers right now for getting this into the country and getting this into the awareness of the population?
Interestingly, the coronavirus is probably what's going to bring algae into the spotlight because, and we'll talk about this, it is the way to protect yourself from any kind of virus or any pathogen is to have a strong immune system. And what creates a strong immune system? Proper nutrition. What is the best and easiest, fastest way to get proper nutrition? Algae. And we'll talk about that. So the reason why it hasn't broken through is A, nobody sees it in their life. B, because it's all grown in Asia and that's where the market is, all the packaging up until now has been Asian. There's been no attempt to educate Americans or Canadians about what algae does, why it works, or to package it in a way that makes it friendly. And so, and the other not equally important, up until now, most of the algae came from China, which is very poor quality, has lots of toxins in it, unpredictable growing techniques. They sell them in high volume, so it's crappy stuff. And so we grow ours in Taiwan and triple filtered spring mountain water, blah, blah, blah. So I've made sure our quality, we do third-party lab tests, is higher than anything else in the world. So what it's going to take is it requires some focus, because the trouble with algae is it does everything from giving you energy to pull out toxins to stopping hangovers to brain health. But because there's so many things, it required a focus. And because right now everybody is focusing on the coronavirus and how to protect themselves and how to build their immune system, and there is nothing in the world, and I have probably 100 articles I will give to you that show the science. They've already discovered that algae protects you from the coronavirus, and if you have it, it will help you get rid of it sooner. And it's all science-based. It's breaking knowledge. It mostly comes out of Asia. So a focus has been what has been required, and the coronavirus has brought us that focus. And interestingly, I'm giving a global webinar on this topic in a couple of days. So the education wheel has begun, and it's only going to get better because I tell people algae is the only thing that gets better every day. I'm stunned that after 10 or 12 years, I'm still learning amazing things about what this stuff does. So
based on your research, and let's talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about when you're talking algae, and let's talk about the difference between, say, spirulina and chlorella, because I think a lot of people might have heard of spirulina and might have heard of chlorella, but don't actually realize it's a form of algae. So can you differentiate those two areas and maybe the benefits of each one of those independently as opposed to that would be great.
And I'm going to rewind a little bit just to give you the overall what algae is. So algae, as I mentioned, is a food group. So you have vegetables, you have fruits, and algae is its own category. Then it breaks down.
Okay, well, hold, stop the farm here, folks. Listen to what she's saying. Okay, we have I would say the lobbyist group food pyramid, which is absolute load of garbage.
Yes, I agree there.
But you're now talking about a new classification of food. It's not a fruit. It's not a vegetable. Is it an animal product? Like, not an animal product? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. Well, that's why that's why people are so confused, because no one's ever made it clear that it's its own food group. And I guess if you had to call it something, it would be a sea vegetable, but it's not quite technically a sea vegetable because but anyways, so it's its own food category. Okay, that's
so what makes it different than, say, fruits or vegetables or land plant? Like what how does it qualify as its own food category?
Well, first of all, it's not grown on land.
Okay.
It's not a vegetable. Number two, it has no phytates. A lot of problems with some of like spinach. There's a lot of vegetables that have phytates in them that can cause digestive distress. There are no phytates, and we've tested our algae to determine that, so I can say that. Spirulina, and I do want to get into the two different categories.
Yeah, no, but get these generalizations. I interrupted you because I was kind of curious about that statement, because I think that's a great statement.
Yeah, well, you're going to love this even more. Before algae, Earth was just gas and water. There was nothing on Earth 4 billion years ago, nothing. And then for whatever reason, spirulina algae started growing. So it was the genus of our entire world. And spirulina grew for about 1 billion years until it releases oxygen when it's growing. So there was enough oxygen on Earth. So then the next life form that took hold was Chlorella. And then Chlorella started growing. And then after that, other life forms started happening. Chlorella does partner into the plant kingdom, but it's not a plant. And spirulina, you're going to love this even more, technically is a bacteria. It does not have a nucleus and it does not have a cellulose wall. That is why it is absolutely not a plant. It does not have any plant characteristics whatsoever. But let me rewind a little bit so you can get a better...
Chlorella came later.
After, correct.
Which would be categorized more as a plant.
It's still not a plant. It's in the in the plant. That would be certainly in the sea vegetable category. Spirulina is a bacteria.
So just to clarify, because a few weeks ago we had Jeff Chilton on explaining about the genus of Mycelium as kind of its own organism structure on its own, right? That's a whole other candidate that's not necessarily in the traditional food things. What you're sharing with us here is this isn't in the traditional food identification parameters as well. I think that's very, very important, as well as the historical aspects, because we've just gone billions of years. We went from like the earliest evolutionary point on this planet of living tissue to Shark Tank in the first 10 minutes of this call. So I mean, it's like we gotta we're trying to catch up with
I know.
with the process here.
Yeah. So that's why I can't call it a plant, because neither one of them are plants. And so it's its own category. And so algae is the overall arching terminology. And then within that, you have two separate categories. One is called macroalgae. This is your seaweed, dulse category. Those are very fibrous. They're grown in the ocean and they have lots of iodine, but very little nutrients. And then you have microalgae. So you have algae is the arching umbrella, macroalgae is the seaweed stuff, and then you have microalgae. Within microalgae, it then breaks down further to blue-green and green. Now, there are probably hundreds of thousands of strains of blue-green and green algae. They grow everywhere. They grow in the ocean, lakes, rivers, streams, swimming pools, aquariums. All of those are poisonous to human beings. So do not stick your head in your swimming pool and suck back a bunch of algae thinking you're going to do yourself some good. You will do yourself a lot of distress. The only two...
Don't throw the poo algae on your salad.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Yeah, not going to work. So within blue-green, the only one that you want to eat is the one I'm going to talk about, which is spirulina, because it's harvested as a crop in fresh water. And then the green one is chlorella, which again is harvested. Those are the two that you want to eat. But the reason I'm telling you that they're only one of these two categories, blue-green, there's thousands and thousands, because when you go online and you'll read about toxic algae. Yes, if it's in the friggin' ocean or it's in the swamp. You wouldn't drink water from a swamp. Well, you shouldn't take algae from a swamp either. You need to buy it. And fortunately, everything that's pretty much on the marketplace is harvested, but some are grown less carefully than ours. So algae is the big group. Then you have macroalgae, which is your seaweed, microalgae, which then breaks into blue, green, and green. And then within one of each of those, one blue-green is spirulina and one green is chlorella. Now, the reason why there's this one called blue-green is because it has two pigments in it. It has the green pigment called chlorophyll that you're familiar with, and it has another pigment in it called phycocyanin, which is blue. And that blue pigment exists nowhere else in nature, and it has amazing healing properties, and we'll talk a little bit about those because it does affect the coronavirus. But in
getting
general,
excited. I got to say, I'm getting excited. Like I'm looking around in here, and I'm like, why am I not snacking on some of this blue-green algae right now? Because I believe in the importance of color spectrum in our dietaries and stuff. I think there's just things that we don't know. Yeah. And you're kind of breaking down some interesting stuff. Yeah. So tell me more about.
There's also beta carotene, which also technically is a pigment, and it's in both of them. So, but you're absolutely right. There's these pigments. We don't yet have a lot of knowledge about pigments, and they are very powerful for healing purposes. So spirulina, I'll just give you the different benefits, and then we'll drill down into some of them. So spirulina, the blue-green algae, is technically a bacteria, gets into your bloodstream quickly. In fact, when we first started 9 years ago, athletes were the first ones to use it because they found out that it gave them energy and did not upset their stomach, like all the bars and gels and drinks did, which have carbs and sugar in them. Algae has one ingredient because it's a vegetable, and it has no sugar, carbs, or caffeine. Has no carbs, by the way. I should point that out. Neither of them do. They're both ketogenic. Spirulina has the highest concentration of protein, as I mentioned, 64%, and all that protein's already in amino acid form. So because there's no cellular,
that's a big factor. Because most people look at protein consumption and they don't recognize it's not the protein you get, it's how well your body converts this into the amino acids that your body are. And you're saying this is a ready to consume, digest, absorb, and utilize amino acid direct. Bang.
Direct. One and done. Yep. Yeah, that's why it has 99% bioavailability. And just to show you how important that is, as you probably know, when you eat animal protein, it can take up to 3 days for your body to digest it and break it down into aminos. And there's all these things called factors and cofactors and enzymes and coenzymes. And so the average person absorbs 10% of what they ate as protein as amino acids. So if you ate a 50-gram portion of chicken, you would probably end up with 5 grams of amino acids. A serving of our 30 tablets is 5 grams of amino acid. It's in the amino acid form. So, and because there's no cellulose wall. It gets absorbed into your bloodstream instantly if you chew it, and within about 5 or 10 minutes if you swallow it. This is why it's such a great energy source, because and it's not like caffeine or sugar. There's no rush or crash. It just you just feel good. You just feel stable.
What do you test as providing the energy to people, or do you think this is switching on like nutrigenomic fact? There's a nutrigenomic factor that's switching on some pathway inside the body, or what is it? What do you think is causing that energy boost?
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of things. First of all, your body to digest food takes 15% of your body's energy. Now, when you give it something like algae, which does not require any energy to digest, because it gets absorbed so quickly, that's like putting 15% back into your bank account for energy. So you save energy there. It also doesn't have to break down the amino acids because it's already in amino acids. So you get some energy back there. It has all the B vitamins. B vitamins are what convert glucose into energy. So does
it have B12? Does it have B12?
B12 has all the Bs.
That in itself right there is a huge factor, especially for people on plant-based diets or vegetarian. And of course, there's a lot of evidence. There's a very interesting component that the reason why we get B12 in animal foods is because they supplement the animals with B12. And now here we have a product that has ready to go B12 and all the essential B vitamins, which are so important for energy production inside the body, right here, ready to go, totally absorbable and utilizable. That's incredible.
Right. Also, algae, because it's so alkaline, remember that's how this whole started, what happens is when you eat too much acidic food, it strips off the negative charge off your hemoglobin, which carries iron is in your hemoglobin that carries oxygen. So first of all, spirulina is loaded with iron, so it can carry lots of oxygen, and that gives you energy. And then because it's alkaline, if you have too much acidic food, the hemoglobin clump, which make it difficult for them to carry the oxygen. So this restores any hemoglobin to its natural shape so it can carry the oxygen and get into your capillaries and get into your brain, and that gives you energy.
You make a big point there. Hold it. Let's just stop the farm right there, because if we look at one of the big issues with this virus is that it's attacking the heme carrying capacity of the body, so that people are actually starving for oxygen during this.
Exactly.
And the reality is most of the population isn't starving for energy. They're starving from oxygen because they're not getting the electrons from the oxygen from their body. So they start seeking, I always say oxygen is your first source, and then you go to carbohydrates, and then you'll metabolize fats, or you'll metabolize protein. You'll convert anything to get those electrons, because at the cellular level, it's electron covalent transfer. What you're saying here is we're going to boost that by boosting and supporting the oxygen carrying capacity of your blood. So that would seem to indicate that's why you're getting the energy. You're feeling that, it's kind of like putting a supercharger on your car. Basically, you're getting more out of the fuel that's already that you're taking in. You're able to carry or be more efficient with that fuel.
Yeah. So, and also spirulina causes your body to release nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide, what that does is it relaxes smooth muscles like your blood vessels. And the effect is when the blood vessel is relaxed, it opens up more, which allows more blood to flow and more oxygen to flow, more nutrients to flow, and that gives you energy. And it also is loaded with essential fatty acids like omega-3 and something called GLA. GLA is technically an omega-6, but it behaves like an omega-3 because it's not processed in the algae. And the only place that has more GLA than spirulina is mother's breast milk. And you say to yourself, well, why does mother's breast milk have so much GLA in it? It's because it's necessary for brain development. But after the age of 2, you can't have any mother's breast milk. So spirulina is your next best shot, because it helps with the telomeres, it helps with the brain thought, all the processes. You need to have this in your brain. And speaking of mother's breast milk, I also am the one that discovered that the nutrient profile of spirulina is virtually identical to mother's breast milk. I saw a chart from the 40s that had listed all the amino acids of mother's breast milk, and I thought, gosh, that looks awfully familiar. And I flipped back and looked at our spirulina nutrient profile, and they're the same aminos in the same proportions. So it makes so much sense to me, because algae is a gift to us from Mother Nature. Algae is the equivalent of Earth's breast milk for us. It's the breast milk and algae are the two foods that you could live on forever. They are such complete foods. And in Japan, when babies can't digest mother's breast milk, the only thing that does keep them alive is algae and water. And now I understand why. So
Wow.
So it's pretty powerful. When you start to put all the pieces together, like I have, it starts to make sense. But the other thing I want to mention, and it's both in spirulina and chlorella, is that algae has the highest concentration of chlorophyll. And we're going to talk more about chlorophyll when we talk about chlorella, because it has the highest in the world. So what's so important about chlorella or chlorophyll? Well, in addition to being a fat-based pigment, so it heals your cell walls. And and anybody who knows anything about your ETP and your mitochondria knows that you have to keep those cell walls healthy so that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. So chlorophyll is what does that. It's one of the things that does that. And if you go online, and I'll send you a document, you'll notice that the chemical composition of chlorophyll is identical to the chemical composition of hemoglobin, except hemoglobin has an iron atom in the middle and chlorophyll has magnesium. But you have to say to yourself, isn't that interesting that they are virtually identical? And maybe that's a tip off of maybe it's important for our health and for our blood and for our survival. And so
I just thought of a quick question here. That do you think the evolution of blood systems in organisms, like what we would call animals and people and all that stuff, is an evolutionary step from the chlorophyll inside of the plant?
Yeah, well, if you read anything by Sarah G, he runs Green Med Info. Fantastic guy, really great resource. He referenced an article that showed that if you had high concentration of chlorophyll and you exposed yourself, not exposed like, take your clothes off, but you put your body in sunlight, you generated more ATP than you did traditionally from all other sources. So
I feel this, just so people know, I've been on a plant-based diet now for almost 20 years. I eat an incredible amount of green foods. I have an incredible amount of chlorophyll in my diet. And when I'm in a sunny, warm climate, I just don't need to eat that much. I really feel energized. Like I feel like I'm converting the power of the sun into energy for the body, and I get leaner and I get healthier and I feel happier, and I just walk for miles and I don't get tired, and it's really it kind of throws off to kind of the mystery that we've been told, that you need so many carbohydrates and so much fat and all this sort of stuff. What you're talking about is that this chlorella, the chlorophyll, and chlorella being the highest density of chlorophyll that you can get, is kind of like a key to bringing in more oxygen into the body and converting sunlight into ATP like plants do. So truly being plant powered.
Yeah.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip, rapid cheat meal relief. Research shows that cheat meals can actually be an effective way to boost your metabolism. One key weight loss hormone, leptin, can be increased by up to 30% following a cheat meal. The challenge with the cheat meals is that all those extra calories and lower food quality can be hard to digest, which means you could be totally sidelined with a food coma after big cheat meals. The solution is to take strong digestive enzymes like Magnesium, which will help rapidly digest and break down the extra food. 3 to 5 capsules before or right after your cheat meal can make a huge difference in how you feel following the cheat meal. If it's a cheat day with multiple large meals, you might want to go up to 10 capsules or higher to help you power through all that food. To save 10% on Masszymes, go to masszymes.com. That's MASSZYMES.com and enter the code CHEAT10 at checkout.
There's more research that was required, and as we get bigger, I hope to be able to fund some of this research because it's very exciting. And man, anyways, so these are some of the reasons why spirulina gives you energy, and the best way to describe it is you just feel fresh. You feel like you had a great night's sleep, or if you live in the Northeast, maybe you had a nice crisp walk outside. It's not a stimulant. It's just, you're just on point, and both physically and mentally. That's why it's so great to have in the morning to get your day started, or have it for snacks. I eat it all day long. And by the way, you can eat it or swallow it. If you don't like the flavor, you can swallow it. But and spirulina is very chewy because it has so much protein and so much essential fatty acids. And we're going to talk about chlorella next. And it's drier and tastes more like a sunflower seed or a soy nut, and is delicious with sea salt or macadamia nuts or almonds. I mean, I eat that stuff all day long. So, but spirulina in general is known to be an energizing algae, satisfies your hunger, builds your skin and hair health, is really great for mental focus. When we talk about the coronavirus, I'll talk to you a little bit about that phycocyanin, which has a really interesting attribute. Well, I'll just mention it here. So they found that, so here's the deal with the coronavirus. They have these tentacles, right? So coronavirus, any virus, is an RNA strand in a shell. And the coronavirus has these tentacles that stick out. And those tentacles reach out. It can't replicate itself until it basically finds a cell, a living cell that has DNA in it that it can hijack and use to replicate itself. So it uses these tentacles to reach out to cells. And the way it connects with your cells is it finds what's called a receptor cell. And sort of like, think of a moon launch, landing on the moon. You have to kind of land somewhere. So these viruses have to land on your cell wall. So what the spirulina, this phycocyanin in spirulina apparently does is that basically depends on what visual you'd like. It chops off the arms, so there's no way that the virus can attach because it has no tentacles left. Or the technical scientific term is that it intercepts. It finds the receptor cells and sits there, so that it basically covers the receptor cells so that the virus can't find the receptor cell and basically just washes out from your body. So it never gets into your body because it can't find the receptor cells. Pretty cool, huh?
So just a caveat, of course, we're not telling
not a
people that it's a cure. It's a cure for anything, or
yes.
we have to put some legal components in here. We're not saying that it's just something that you could treat, cure, or diagnose. But it's certainly something that could be of significant benefit to people to be consuming, especially people who feel that they're in the at-risk population, older people, things like that, or people that feel like, if you're one of these people that catch colds all the time or catch flus or catch these things, it could be good for a lot of different conditions and viral components inside the body that we could be a preventative component.
Yeah. But we have to be sure, and thank you for mentioning that. I'm not a medical professional. We're not allowed to give advice. All I'm doing is sharing the research that I have read, and I've found it very interesting. And all I do is share what I know with other people, but we can't make any recommendations, any claims.
Right. But but by exercising your right to free speech and the civil liberties that we do enjoy, this is your professional opinion in the last 30 years, is that, hey, you know what, this is something that you think would be of huge value for people who are concerned about virtually any kind of viral infection, because all viruses essentially work by that mechanism that you were explaining earlier. These little prongs come in, they dock in your cells, they take over, they send their RNA message and use that cell to replicate, and that's what causes these challenges where people get into cytokine storms and all that sort of technical mumbo jumbo for people, but you don't have to understand all the techno mumbo jumbo. You can just get into understand, hey, this is something that's been around for billions of years. This is something that helps oxygen carrying capacity in the body. It tastes good. It's easy to consume. It's got full of amino acids. And when you take it and use it, and it turns your body literally into an energy producing ATP, sun system, if you will. And it's something that everybody can use. And it's easy and it's fun. And it's got an incredible over 100,000 studies that you've point. And we're going to put some links, by the way, folks, to if you want to dive deep for all the scientific community that listens to that. Check this stuff out. It's really, really important. I just needed to throw that in. I didn't want to throw that in there because I know you got a million things to go, and I just want to slow things down for people who are kind of like, whoa. So I'm trying to write this down. So there we go. So let's continue on because I'm fascinated by this journey.
Okay, so that was spirulina, technically a bacteria, gets into your bloodstream quickly, gives you energy mentally and physically, satisfies your hunger, highest concentration of protein in the world. By the way, the United Nations had a conference on spirulina in 1974. And again, everything I say is all documentable. And they held a global conference and identified spirulina as the answer to world hunger because of this high protein. When you see those children with the distended stomachs, that's when they've had
protein deficiency. Yeah. I was listening to a medical doctor the other day talking about the untouchables in India who they thought were, classified as the untouchables or people who are not within the regular caste system. And they added protein into their diets, and all of a sudden their cognitive function shot up. Very much like, people don't know this, but way back at the turn of the century when they added iodine into the diets of Americans, it increased the average standard deviation of IQ by 15 points.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and you're interesting enough, you're saying that we're talking about a 15% improvement in energy efficiency inside the body. So that, geez, that's massive.
Yeah. No, it's and like I say, it's given to us by Mother Nature. I can't take credit for algae. I just educate people about it, and I grow it very carefully so it's safe and pure and nutrient rich.
Are you growing algae in your kitchen right now? I'm curious.
I wish I was. I do plan to grow it in America one day when we're bigger. So that may take another 5 or 10 years, but that's my end goal. So hang tight.
With our understanding of what's happening in supply chains and our dependency on it, maybe that goal and that dream might become realized much faster. There's always silver linings in current crisis. And I think there's a lot of people in our industry that are looking at, hey, what is the supply chains about these essential components that we need for health and vitality and stuff. And so maybe now is going to be better than ever for that dream. Because I think we should be growing some over here in North America. Why not?
Exactly. Well, you'll be happy to know that last year, the White House and Congress passed the very first Algae Agricultural Act as part of the Farm Bill. Again, you can check it out because even they have realized algae is the most nutrient-dense food, the most eco-friendly crop in the world, and 99.9% of it is grown in Asia. So it's time to grow it here. So even the legislators are on the algae train. So ladies and gentlemen, get on board because it's going to take off from the station pretty soon. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome. So we've covered spirulina.
Okay.
Now you're going into chlorella, right? Now wait, just so we're confused, so people aren't confused here. Now the blue pigment that's in the spirulina?
Yes.
Now what is the specific benefit of the blue pigment?
Well, there's a variety of health benefits. Like I mentioned, it reduces inflammation. It has this particular nuance where it interferes with the virus receptors. There's so much more research to be done on the blue pigment phycocyanin. An interesting side note, however, is that the M&M's company 4 years ago, because they want to start having less poisonous things, coloring dyes and stuff like that. They have contracted with an algae grower to grow the spirulina just for the blue pigment, and they use it in America now to color their blue M&Ms. Pretty cool, huh?
So if you're gonna eat M&Ms, only eat the blue ones.
Yeah, right.
That's the new rule. All right, I just like to have a little fun here. Tell me, okay, so we've covered spirulina. And
Okay.
now we're going to move into chlorella. So
Chlorella.
spirulina was the original, the OG algae, if you will, and then kind of like the new algae became chlorella. Is that accurate to say?
Well, the new chlorella evolved. So we call our spirulina ENERGYBits because it gives you energy, and we package it in blue to make that connotation. It's the blue-green algae. But we found out women didn't like the blue packaging, so we created a second version of spirulina called the Beauty Bits because it also builds your skin and hair health. But they're exactly the same. But that's why it's blue because of the blue phycocyanin.
Okay,
chlorella,
I really want to get some of these right now. I'm excited. These are really attractive bags.
Thank you. I designed them.
Wow.
So the green algae we call recovery bits because it helps you recover your health. This is the chlorella. And it evolved 1 billion years after spirulina, when there was more oxygen on Earth. And it does have a cellulose wall, and it does have a nucleus. So it does belong to the plant kingdom, although it doesn't completely belong because, as I say, it doesn't have any phytates. And there's some other attributes to it that can't connect it directly to plants. There are two really important things about chlorella. Well, there's quite a few, but I'll give you the two top ones. First of all, that hard cell wall that I mentioned is in fact the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. It is so hard that it has to be cracked at production. And we can talk about we are one of the few companies that crack it safely by pushing it through a sound chamber so the vibrations crack it. Everybody else tumbles it with glass beads, and lead from the glass leaks into the chlorella. But that's not
that's why some of the toxicities would be in low grade algae. Chlorella is because the process, and this is a critical point for people to understand. People will oftentimes go to the store, they'll listen to an expert like you, and they'll go, wait a second, I see one bottle for $10, another one for 20, and one for 50. I don't get it. I don't understand. And if you've been in manufacturing and distribution and sourcing and how you get finished product ready for the population is very, very, very critical. It's the difference between,
McDonald's burger,
heating up your dinner, microwaving your dinner, or just burning your dinner. And a lot of people don't realize it, that there's a lot of great products out there in the world, but because of the extraction processes, or because of the growing processes, or because of the processing processes, they just destroy all the value of it, and people are just wasting their money. They go, well, I took spirulina or I took chlorella and I didn't feel anything.
Right.
Boom. Or I had some sort of weird reaction. Boom. Chances are it wasn't the product, it was the process or the chemicals or the things that were inside it. And I think that's really important for people to know.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up, because you kind of get what you pay for. Now, one of the things that separates us from everybody else is if you go on Amazon, you will find much less expensive algae, and you'll find it from all kinds of companies, including places like Now and GNC. But you have to remember, those companies have anywhere from 100 to 2,000 products. They can't possibly spend the kind of time and attention that I have and that we do. This is all we sell. That's it. And I personally have selected every single attribute, every strain, every process for growing it, drying it, packaging it, shipping it, everything. So we are experts. It's like you have your country doctor and you have your heart surgeon. You do not want to go to your country doctor for a heart transplant. If you are going to put algae in your body because it's nutrient dense and you want it to help build your immune system, you don't want to put garbage algae in your body. Not only will it not perform for you, it could cause you more harm than good. because all those companies that grow algae for the high volume suppliers, where if it's high volume, it's low price, they're not paying attention. They have the lower strains of algae. They use high heat that kills the enzymes and reduces the nutrient value. They put binders in it that could be toxic. They don't package them safely. They don't. They use these cracking techniques that do cause lead to go into the product. So none of that happens with ours, because this is all, we don't sell anything else. We have one product effectively, two types of algae. But
I call it the Me Too movement. Oh, you got spirulina, me too. Oh, you got this product, me too. And a lot of companies operate from the Me Too, whatever's in the in the news cycle or the advertising cycle or whatever the trend happens to be, or whatever an expert or enthusiast gets behind a product or nutrient. You see that category explode, and then you have all the what I call the knockoffs, and which do an extraordinary disservice to the population, because the average person, I mean, unless you've done this kind of research and this kind of effort, you're not able to discern the difference between what you're actually getting as a finished utilizable product.
And when you have something as high quality as ours, you need less of it because it's so concentrated. So
how much does a person, what is it? I'm curious. Like I want to like rip open one of these bags right now and dump the whole thing down my throat immediately.
Yeah.
What do I do? Like, how much should I take? Is there, like, do I have to dose up? Should I separate dosages? Like, give me the goods here, because I'm excited. I want to start woofing this stuff down.
I'll give that to you now, and then I'll circle back to Chlorella.
Okay.
So when we first started, because we were working with Olympic athletes, ultra marathoners, triathletes, and they needed we found they needed at least 30 tablets to feel either the energy from spirulina or to help their muscles not be sore afterwards, because chlorella, as we're going to talk about.
And how much is in a tablet? How much?
So each tablet is 250 milligrams, and again, there's nothing else in it. It's just 100% algae. And when we sell the bags, there's 1,000 tablets in a bag. So that was when we first started working with athletes. But now that we're working with consumers who are virtually all nutrient deprived, we're finding that even if you take 5 tablets a day or 10, that will make a difference in your health. That will make a difference in your hunger. If you're doing intermittent fasting, have 5 and maybe take 10. Or if you're going to do a workout, take 15. If you're going to do a hard workout, take 30. You have to remember, this is food. So some days you're going to be really hungry, take less. Some days you're really hungry, take more. It doesn't really make a difference, because it's what you need is what you should be taking.
We have a model that I like to use at Bioptimizers, and that is that we have what we call the minimum effective dosage, the maximum effective dosage, and then the optimum effective dosage. And that's going to be dependent. There's going to be a variance in it. So you're saying for the average person, a minimum of 5 tabs.
Correct. A day.
If you're a hard training athlete, 30. But what happens if you go beyond that? 'Cause I'm always asking the question, well, how much of this stuff can I take? Like what do I get even more energy if I take 100 capsules a day? Or what's the deal?
Well, we fuel a lot of NHL teams. And so they take 75 of the spirulina, the ENERGYBits, they put it in their smoothie before a game, because they need energy for those fast spurts on the ice.
Right.
Like we work with the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, I don't know all the names of all of them, but anyways, they're all like very big teams. And then they take an equal number of 75 of the chlorella, the recovery bits, in their smoothie after the game, because chlorella, as I mentioned, pulls out toxins, but it also pulls out lactic acid. So,
wow, that's interesting.
It also, and by the way, it pulls out alcohol as well. So if you take it after you drink, you'll never have a hangover. You'll be sober in an hour and a half. But after a workout, you won't have sore muscles. So, and just to show you how safe this stuff is, I'll tell you 2 things. First of all, I personally have probably at least 100 chlorella tablets a day, and have had that much every day for the last 8 years. And I'm older than most people think, and it's partly because of the algae, because we'll talk about the chlorella. It pulls out excess calcium from soft tissue, not just your heart blood vessels, but also your skin And that's
Wait a second. You're saying the chlorella starts it starts pulling out the excess calcium inside your tissues?
because it has vitamin K2.
Well, this is a huge thing, because I think a lot of people don't know that a lot of the aging or tightness that builds up in the muscles, or people who perform a repetitive thing like bodybuilders, for example, we lift weights and stuff like that, is that you get these calcium deposits inside your tissues that stick the fibers together, and then you start to lose range of motion in the body, and then you got to go to a rolfer, and then you realize why torture is so inhumane, because you got some 250-pound guy like driving his elbow into your quads, and you're ready to like scream for days because of the pain of these calcium deposits. You're telling me that I could just take this algae and it's going to start pulling the calcium out of my body?
So I know
Out of my muscles, out of my muscle tissue,
Yeah,
which
we're
is really
jumping
important.
all over the place, and
I know, but that's how we go here at the Awesome Health Show. I'm curious, and you got me interested.
So here's the thing. They're realizing 50% of heart attacks. I mean, it's important for your muscles as well, but they're realizing that almost 50% of heart attacks are caused by calcification of your blood vessels. That's what arterial sclerosis is.
Right.
It's hardening of your arteries. Guess what's hardening your arteries, ladies and gentlemen? Calcium. Guess what kidney stones are? Calcium. Guess what a lot of Alzheimer's is from? Calcification of your brain. So why are people suffering from calcium? It's because almost everybody is deficient in vitamin K2, because what vitamin K2 does is it moves excess calcium out of soft tissue and puts it into your bones. But the problem is there's really only two sources of K2, natural from food, two sources. Grass-fed animal protein, and if you're plant-based, obviously that's out, and algae. It also is in a dish called natto, very high concentration in a dish called natto, which is a Japanese dish, and virtually nobody in America.
Which is where the evolution of nattokinase, which is to reduce calcification inside the body.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
it all
fascinating.
makes, here's the beautiful thing about algae, and this is one of the things I love what I do so much. It's the truth. And the beautiful thing about the truth is that you can dig around, you can do whatever you want. It's still the truth, and it connects with every other truthful fact that's out there. And so anyways, I just get pretty pumped about it. So here's why you have no K2 in your body. Okay. Up until the 60s, animals were raised on pastures, and guess what they were eating? Grass. Animals have a bacteria in their gut that can convert the K1, because K1 is in anything that's green. Animals can convert the K1 that's in anything green, like grass, to K2. So that when you eat animal protein that was grass-fed, you, the human, would get the K2. But then in the 70s, the farmers realized if they moved all the animals off the pasture and put them into enclosures and fed them corn, they would get faster, they would get fatter faster, and they would make more money. And in that heartbeat, your supply of K2 disappeared, because the animals were no longer being raised on grass, so there was no longer any K2 that they were converting, and we lost it. And that's exactly when heart disease started escalating.
That's a fascinating historical aspect, because it's interesting, because now there's this movement with people on ketogenic diets and things like that, and they're all talking about grass-fed beef or grass-fed animals, and a lot of people attest to the fact, because like I feel like I have more energy or more vitality, or I see this sort of stuff, and what I hear is it's maybe not the meat, it's the K2 that's in the meat. And so for all the frustrated vegetarians out there that are going, man, I can't get that stuff in my body, guess what? Algae. It's in the algae. Take that.
Yeah.
Carnivorous forces.
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Well,
having fun here. Just
yeah.
having fun.
Well,
But that's an interesting. I didn't know that. That's a
yeah.
really,
Well, I think
really
I'm the
good
only person that
point.
knows this because I'm a
No,
crazy.
there's going to be a lot more people knowing about it because now
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about this all the time
Yeah.
because I'm fascinated by that. That's a
It's
breakthrough.
and we do I did lab tests to prove that it was there, and so it's there. I mean, like, you can't deny that it's there because it was tested by a third party FDA approved lab. We have the labs. I can send you the labs. So chlorella has twice as much K2 as spirulina. So you get your daily requirement. I think it's 92 mcgs. You can also buy K2 supplements, but they're made from fermented chickpeas. And here's another interesting thing. Your brain can, K2 is a very complicated vitamin, and they have all these M4, M7. M4 is found in the food version, and it's the only type your brain can absorb. The type that is made into supplements is a type called M7 that your brain cannot absorb. So I said to myself, well, why would I cheat my brain out of the K2? Why don't I, it's in the algae, so just give yourself the K2 that you need for your heart, for your brain, for your skin, for your organs, for your muscles. You're good to go. So that's in the chlorella. That's why we call it, again, recovery bits, because it helps you recover from anything. That hard cell wall attaches to toxins. It pulls out lead, mercury, radiation. They used it at Chernobyl, Hiroshima, Fukushima. The K2 moves calcium out of your soft tissue into your bones. It has the highest concentration of chlorophyll that I mentioned before. That is a cleanser of your cell walls. Chlorella has 250 times more chlorophyll than spinach. It has 25 times more than liquid chlorophyll even. It has 25 times more than wheatgrass. There is nothing in the world that has more chlorophyll than chlorella. And here, listen to this. Back in World War II, when they ran out of blood for transfusions for the injured, they used to give them liquid chlorophyll because they would heal.
I had heard this.
They would heal just as fast as if they'd had a blood transfusion. And that was before the pharmaceutical industry really got its dig into our society. But I'm telling you, people, things that have been done for centuries or at least hundreds of years that worked, but we've forgotten them because we've allowed ourselves to be lured into the pharmaceutical world. And there's a lot safer, gentler, natural, less invasive ways to help your body perform at its optimal mentally and physically that have been around for much longer than any pharmaceutical company. So this chlorella and the chlorophyll in the chlorella is very healing. I mentioned that the chemical composition, excuse me, is almost identical. Actually, chlorophyll also kills bacteria. They used it topically at these in the war. So it's pretty amazing. It also has the highest concentration of RNA and DNA in the world. So as you age, your RNA and DNA get damaged. So that can contribute to replication of damaged cells, which can contribute to illness and disease. And this helps prevent that. Chlorella also has something called, they didn't know what to call it, so they call it chlorella growth factor. Chlorella is the fastest growing organism in the world. This is why NASA wants to take it in outer space, because it will grow so quickly, because it releases oxygen and is a food source. They're also using it any kind of research that's been done on alternative fuels. It's always with chlorella because it grows so fast. They're trying to figure out how to tap the energy when the cells divide. The reason I mention this is because when you take it, it helps your cells divide and grow faster as well. We found people that either have an injury or surgery, they heal in half the time because of, and I think it's partly because of the chlorella growth factor. It just speeds up the growth of your cells. So it's pretty amazing. It's like having a doctor in your back pocket. And it's got 40 vitamins and minerals, just like spirulina, but they don't behave the same way. Spirulina is, as I said, is an energizing algae. Chlorella is a very health and wellness, immune building algae.
Okay, so I want to condense this. So I'm a listener to the podcast here, and I'm sold. I want some of this stuff. How do I get it? How do I separate maybe what I would take? You mentioned, I think, spirulina before workouts and chlorella after, I think
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
So if you were to talk to me, so I'm a middle-aged guy that likes to lift weights and work out and things like that, and I want more energy and I want better, cellular function. I want to carry more oxygen in my body, and I want to take out the calcium deposits that have built up over years of training. What do I need to do? And tell us about your company, because I know with ENERGYBits, you have separate kind of bags or different things of these.
Yeah.
So can you explain all that for us
Okay.
so that people know what to do, and tell us how they get this?
Exactly. Well, our website, first of all, is energybits.com, ENERGY, B for boy, I, T for Tom, S for Sam. And we we sell the algae in large bags of 1,000 tablets. And if you go to our website, when you go into the shopping cart, you'll see a coupon box. And if you type in the word Bioptimizers, Bioptimizers, you'll get 20% off. Anything you buy.
Wow, that's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So the best way to make it easy for people is we say, well, hey, you want energy in the morning, right? And when you sleep, I'm not sure if you knew this, but when you sleep, your body goes through a natural detox cycle. So if you want the simplest way to take this stuff, simply take your spirulina anytime in the morning, in the afternoon, before a workout, whenever you want energy and focus, or your hunger satisfied, anytime. And then at nighttime, be sure you take a serving of the chlorella, because it will pull out toxins from the day. If you'd had any wine, it will pull that out. If you'd worked out, it'll pull out the lactic acid. It also has the highest concentration of tryptophan in the world, so it will help you get to sleep. That being said, so spirulina morning, afternoon, chlorella at night, and again, ENERGYBits, and the other one is RecoveryBits. That being said, you can take either of them any time of day by themselves together. You can swallow them, you can chew them. Remember, I said I take chlorella all day long because I like the flavor of it.
So I'm gonna do a little experiment here. I'm gonna take this. They're both in tablets. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna take. You said, was it 15 or 30 for athletes is the best?
30 before your workout of the spirulina, and 30 of the chlorella after your workout.
Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 30 and 30 for 30. Okay. And I'm going to see what the results are like, because I'm so pumped up about this. I think it's going to be amazing. So I want to do this 30, 30, and 30. Of course, can you give us that? We're going to put the links in here. If you put Bioptimizers in the coupon code. Yeah,
and it's energybits.com. Now, the other thing I do want to mention is we do have a bag, and we actually sent you one already. Otherwise, I would have sent you the ones you wanted, called Vitality Bits, and it's a blend. It's half spirulina and half chlorella. So you don't have as much control over it because it's got the two algae in there. But if you have a more predictable life and you just want simplicity and you can only buy one bag and you want to get a little bit of the energy and a little bit of the, the health and wellness benefits, that's your answer. It's called Vitality Bits. It's 50-50. But we generally...
that's so cool.
If you're an active person or an athlete, we encourage you to try to buy them separately. And a bag, if you only took 5 a day, a bag would last you 3 months. If you took 10 a day, a bag would last you 2 months. 30 a day would last you a month. And by the way, there's so much nutrition. It's a replacement for your multivitamin, CoQ10, magnesium, potassium, God forbid calcium. Please stop taking calcium tablets if you're taking any. And it also is a replacement for your workout fuel, your snacks. Your pets will love them. Your kids will have them. And if you don't like the flavor, you can certainly swallow them or put them in a smoothie. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
This is just mind-blowingly awesome. Catherine, you're so incredible. And I always love listening to people who are, jazzed up. You can tell you're a product of your product, and you've known so much. I've learned so much today, and I hope our listeners have learned so much today. Folks, you need to check this product out. She's going to send us some research links for our research people. We're going to put all those show notes in the podcast. And I'm going to do the 30, 30 for 30. I'm going to do
All right.
30 of the Spirulina and 30 of the Chlorella. And I'm going to let people know how it was, and I'm going to share it on an upcoming podcast after I've done that. I'm excited about it. I'm sold on it. I love the story about the K2. I love the story that this has been around for billions of years. It was the precursor to everything. I love the fact that it's another food group, and that it's loaded with all these amino acids that are pre-digested, essentially, because you don't have to worry about the breaking down of it. It's great for viruses, and that this thing is. I mean, everybody should be eating this, and everybody should be pushing to help support the growth. Where can people find you? How do they find out more? It seems like you're a wealth of research. Where do they get all this information, and how do they reach out and contact you if they want to maybe get this in their store, or they want to get this in their community, or whatever?
Yeah, and we sell through doctors nationwide, by the way. We don't sell through the big stores. We only go through chiropractors, doctors, nutritionists, spas, but we're looking to expand. So, and there's a lot of research on our website, ENERGYBits.com. We're very active on social. Our handles are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all at ENERGYBits. If you have an interest in a wholesale account or an affiliate account, or you just want more research, you can email us at customercare@ENERGYBits. I'm a crazy science, geek scientist woman, and I've written about 200 papers on various aspects of algae. I won't tell you anything about it that I haven't already documented with science. So I love sharing about this, and I'm hoping that eventually maybe in a couple of years, it won't be why should I take algae? It would be why shouldn't I? I mean, this truly, I think, is a game changer we didn't even talk about the eco-friendly, sustainable nature of it, but that maybe I can come back after your 30 days and we can do a roundup.
I think that'd be really great. Catharine, thank you so much for joining us today on the Awesome Health Podcast. This was a wealth of knowledge. I had to slow you down. You're so filled with it. It was great. You've been a lot of fun to kind of play on the show. And again, you heard it. It's ENERGYBits.com. Put it by Bioptimizers, and you get a 20% discount. And I'm encouraging everybody to do the 30, 30, and 30. I had no idea that you could get this kind of power out of it. I'm in, I'm sold. I'm on this. I'm excited. And I can't wait to start slamming this back ASAP.
All right. Good stuff. All right. You won't be disappointed.
Thanks so much. And for everybody joining us, make yourself awesome health. Don't let the viral get you down. Take action, get your health in order. And all my friends and family members who are using health and vitality products like this that we advocate on our podcast, they're not worried about the virus because they know they have a healthy and happy immune system. It's time to really buckle down, get you and your family on all these kind of things because it's going to make a big difference in your health. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the Awesome Health Podcast.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip. Turn cultured foods into superfoods. Raw fermented foods like sauerkraut and low sugar live yogurt can be good for you, but rarely have enough of the right probiotic strains for therapeutic benefit. So here's a way that you can turn them into superfoods. What I do is I get some raw sauerkraut or a healthy yogurt. Ideally, it's grass-fed or coconut-based, and you can empty 3 caps of P3OM into a container and mix it up thoroughly. Leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours before putting it back into the fridge. And what's going to happen is these probiotic levels will be multiplied. In fact, it doubles every 20 minutes. And then what you're going to get is you're going to have a food with strong proteolytic activity. To learn more about P3OM and why its patented strains make it the strongest probiotic available, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.